don't know, it's real weird. I don't really know what we're getting into. So as you can tell from the title of this vlog, I almost said book, oh Lord above, okay. There's a lot of physicalities that are different obviously between these two main characters. So if you're someone who's not a fan of that kind of stuff, just be wary because that's in here. I don't really know what I'm saying anymore. I've lost all track of my thoughts. Whew, okay. This is such a weird idea and I think it kind of worked. Hi everybody, my name is Kelsey and we're about to get very, very nerdy with a themed reading vlog. So as you can tell from the title of this video, I am going to be reading monster romances, which only felt appropriate, like so appropriate for like October, you know, like I am not a huge fan of like monster romances. I've only read, I mean, okay, so I consider alien romances to be a part of monster romance, so like that might not be true at all, but for the purposes of this video and for like my brain, that's how I think about it. So I read one alien romance and I did actually quite enjoy it. It was very bizarre. It was a prequel, so like it was actually kind of like a short story, but it was weird. And I got a book from an author that is kind of what sparked this idea. Well, I got it, I'm part of her Patreon, so I got it from that. But that's the idea behind this video, is I'm going to be reading 3 books that I consider monster romances, and it all started because I got The Dragon's Bride by Katie Robert in the mail because I'm part, like I said, I'm part of her Patreon. So I thought, what better way to like force myself to read it to see if I'm actually going to be like enjoying like this series. And I've got a couple of like alien romances as well that are kind of like in the back of my head that I feel like I would want to try. So that's what we're doing. We are going to read 3 books this vlog and see how it goes. So, like I said, the one that kind of sparked this idea was The Dragon's Bride, which I did actually get on my TBR, so I think some of you might have guessed where I was going with this. But this follows Briar Rose, who basically like hates her life. Like, she does not get along with her husband, and so she strikes up a bargain with a demon and basically like freedom for her husband, and then like she'll serve him for 7 years, but he like immediately puts her on an auction block in a room full of literal monsters and is sold to the highest bidder, which is a dragon. And so it's the 2 of them. This cover is both creepy and beautiful all at the same time. I don't know how to like get all my thoughts in order. But this is the first in her series. It's called A Deal with a Demon. Yeah, A Deal with a Demon. And I think there's been at least like 2 more in this series at this point. So that's really what started this idea. But then I also have been interested in, I've been toying with it ever since they got new covers, but it's the Ice Planet Barbarians series. And it like took the internet by storm like last year. And I've never really been interested in it, but I keep seeing the new beautiful like illustrated covers, and like part of me wants to pick it up. So I found it on Kindle Unlimited, and we're going to do it that way. So I'm going to pick that one up as well. I don't really know anything about this, but I have been warned by my friend Taylor, because she just read that book as well, that like rape is a big part of the beginning of the book, which I suspect all of these books are going to have very taboo conversations and stuff like that. So I think we're gonna start the video with that one, and then we'll get to Dragon's Bride, and then we'll end the video with the other like alien romance I've got, and that is called Choosing Theo, which again, my friend Taylor is the reason I'm interested in this book, and she like swears by it, and we have very, very similar reading taste, so she loves it. I'm probably gonna love it as well. Not sure about that one either. I just know it's an alien romance, and it has to do with like tattoos. Like there's something about tattoos with him, and so I haven't really looked into any of these yet, but I've decided I'm gonna like kind of, instead of doing like this first and then doing both of the alien romances, I'm gonna like break it up and do this one in the middle, so that like if the 2 alien romances are very similar, then I won't get them confused. I don't think they will be, because I feel like the worlds are totally different, but in my head it makes sense for me. So that's the plan. We're going to start this video with Ice Planet Barbarians, and I'll let you know how it goes. It's going to be a very interesting video, because like this is very outside of my comfort zone, but I really want to see, because there's a whole section of like the smutty internet that like swears by this book and like monster romances and stuff like that, and I just I want to know if they're for me, and if not, then that's totally fine and we're going to move on. But like, I want to try this experiment and see what happens. So that's the plan. I don't know how, like, what this vlog is going to turn into, but I'll come back to you when I've at least started I Plan of Barbarians and give you an idea of kind of what's going on. I feel like I'm going to be able to get through these very, very quickly. I do have all 3 of them on Kindle Unlimited. Well, this one, and the other 2 on Kindle Unlimited, and then I've also got audiobooks of all of them, so that'll help me get through them, I think, because, like, I don't know, like, if I'm a slow reader, so it's gonna be hard for me to actually, like, physically sit down, and I think that'll be easier if I do it that way. So, I'll let you know when I start that, and we'll see what this video turns into. It's a giant experiment, so thank you for coming along this ride. I don't know what's gonna happen, so it's going to be a surprise to all of us. Hello. It is a few days later, and I actually have some updates for you. I've actually finished an entire book and started a second one. I was going to come to you after I had, like, initial first thoughts of I Plan of Barbarians, but I read the first chapter right before bed over the weekend sometime. I can't remember exactly when it was, and didn't have great feelings about it, so I wanted to get into it so I had, like, a better idea of what it was about before I came to talk to you about it, and then I basically just, like, binged the whole thing yesterday. So I Plan of Barbarians, I ended up giving this one 3.5 stars. This is becoming obvious to me, I think, with a trend with these books, is going to be that the beginnings are going to be super, super rough. I'm not going to enjoy them at the beginning, but maybe by the end they'll get better. Just because I feel like with most monster romances and things of that nature, this is going to be like, it's a really rough situation wherever these main characters are. It's going to be really rough before we get into the rest of the story. That's going to put them into the situation that they're in. So each of these are going to have really big trigger warnings, and I'm probably going to miss them, so I would check out trigger warnings online. But I Plan of Barbarians, in my opinion, is not worth the hype because it's just kind of okay. I would say trigger warnings in this one specifically for rape, like that one's a really big one, especially at the beginning. But just like general grossness with dudes and females and stuff like that. But rape is on the page and everything, so like just be very wary of that. But this book basically follows our main character Georgie, who at the very beginning gets abducted by aliens, and she is one of, I think it's 13. She's one of 13 girls who get kidnapped by this race of aliens. They came to Earth to take 6 people. Now, they don't know why. They're never explained why these girls were taken, but they had spots for 6 girls that were going to be cryogenically frozen, and then they decided that they had all this extra room on the ship, so why not keep going? And so they kidnapped a bunch of other girls, and like they're just kind of sitting in like a general cell area on this ship. And so that's when the story starts, and something bad happens to the ship, and the ship ends up having to get rid of the cargo, aka all of these girls, and they land on this ice planet. And Georgie has kind of become like the leader of them, even though she was one of the last. She wasn't the very last one that was collected, let's say, but she was like second to last. She was right up to the end, and she kind of takes the lead, and so she goes into this ice planet to try to figure out if they can get food, water, a place to like stay warm, things like that. And she runs into this blue alien called Vectol. And so there's a lot with that. There's a lot of like mating with this tribe of like, there's something in them that like calls to their person, and she is his. And so there's a lot. One thing that I did enjoy about this, which I think is a thing with books that I didn't realize, is when they don't understand each other language-wise, it's really interesting to see how they come to understand. And like some things happen later in the book, but at least early on, there's a lot of like, you know, miming and pantomiming and things like that to try to get them to understand the same things. And it's very simple things like fire, food, water, stuff like that. But moments like that, for some reason, are very interesting to me. But the thing with this book is that it felt like a prequel. There wasn't really a whole lot going on. Honestly, like, it was just a very, very quick go, 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 which was interesting because, like, I saw the physical book in, like, a store, and it was, like, 300 pages, and I plowed through this thing in, like, basically an afternoon. Not all the way, but almost all the way in, like, one day. and I was really paying attention, and then all of a sudden I was halfway through the book and I was like, I feel like nothing has happened. So it had that like prequel feeling because there was a lot of disconnect between the character development and the characterizations of our characters wasn't really not good. It was kind of bland, very surface level. A lot of decisions were made in haste. You could tell that some of the stuff that happened at the end of the book was just because the author was trying to wrap up the book. So like, the species of alien, like this blue alien, is fascinating to me. I am actually interested in like that aspect of it, but I think there's much better ones out there. And this series is like 14 books long, and I do not have time for 14 books. So it took about halfway through the book for me to really get interested in what was going on. I did like the chemistry. There was a little bit of chemistry between our two main characters, and like that was fine. But there was just a lot that was just like very, very surface level stuff was going on here. It didn't feel like a fully fledged book. Felt like almost like a first draft, kind of, which is why I think it might be a prequel, because I've noticed that prequels really give like, you're supposed to already kind of understand the world, because most prequels come after the series has come out, and so like the idea is that you've already read this world, and so this is just kind of like an extra story for you. But like, that's not with this book. This book was actually like the very first in the series, so I don't think I'll finish with this one. I wouldn't say it was a waste of my time, because I was actually interested in it. I wanted to see why everyone liked it so much, and I think there's an addictive quality to these characters and the very like male bruteness kind of them. But I don't know, like I've read better things. The one alien book that I read before this one was better than this one. So it was just kind of okay. You know, like I gave it 3.5 stars, because by the end I was enjoying the end of it, but the beginning was just bizarre, and I really didn't like it. Like, if I had gone on the first chapter alone, I wouldn't have finished this book. But so I did go through that one, and so today I started The Dragon's Bride by Katie Robert. I am somewhere in chapter 5. I'm basically, I'm like a page away from the end of chapter 6, which is like 40 pages into this book, and this one's relatively short, so I think I'm going to get through this really, really quickly. But the idea of this story, and I kind of looked into the other books that are in the series, is that there's this, it's called A Deal with a Demon. And the idea behind this is that demons come to human women, or this one demon specifically comes to human women when they're really in need, strikes a bargain with them, and they have to give 7 years of service to him, or 7 years of service, basically that's not a contract, and they basically get like auctioned off to these different species. And I can already tell, because I happened to already look into what the other books were following, that the auction section, there was 4 different girls, and so far there's only 2 books out in the series, but there's at least 4 planned, and there are 4 girls in this auction. So I think, you know, I already know that these are the other girls that we're going to be following. This one's Briar Rose, and so for this one, there's a lot with this book, but I would say trigger warnings. There's a lot of trigger warnings, specifically for domestic abuse. It's not on the page. It's all like historical happened in the past. But Briar Rose has a terrible, terrible relationship with her husband. Her husband is crazy abusive, and she's just trying to get away. And that's when the demon shows up, and they basically make a bargain. She understands everything is consensual so far. Everything is consensual so far. So it's very much like she knows the bargain that she's getting into. She realizes what's going to happen, and he has very strict rules about the creatures that are part of this auction thing. And there is a contract that he has. Once they make a contract with him, and then they do the little auction thing, and then they have another contract with all 3 of them together. Whoever auctions her is this guy named Soul, who is a dragon, and the demon guy. And basically the idea is that like, if something happens to the human, then all of these people have land, and that land will go to the demon. And so it's kind of the incentive to take care of this person, and like, they're not allowed to be forced into anything they're not want to be part of. But her deal specifically, they have to be married for like a hot second, just because it'll help his land. Still only 7 years. Once the 7 years is up, she can peace out, bye. But for at least a chunk of this, she has to be married to him. So they've just made this deal, and she has come to his land, and they're about to get like married, is where I'm at. Don't really have a whole lot of thoughts yet. I will say, because I've listened to a few other books by her, the audiobook of this one specifically is, the characters are the same. that I've read before, which is interesting because the guy, the man who voices all the like guy parts, has a very like grovelly voice that really annoyed me when I was listening to him for the Wicked Villain series, but works really well because I think he's supposed to be like a dragon in this one. I don't know, it's real weird. I don't really know what we're getting into. Rough beginning, but significantly less of a rough beginning than the first book, so I'm excited to continue and just kind of see what we're getting into with this one. I looked at my audiobook and I am listening on like double speed just because the narrators are so slow for this one for some reason, and I've got like 2 hours left, so I definitely can finish this one tomorrow. So this is becoming a very interesting vlog because they're all really bizarre. I don't really know what I'm getting into with each of them. This might be a total flop for like my preferences, but they're really easy to get through and I'm getting through them very, very quickly. So I will for sure finish this one tomorrow. So I'll probably come back with final thoughts on this one and then have started the third one, which was Choosing Theo. But that one has really good reviews from people that I trust, so I'm actually really excited about that one. I'm glad I'm finishing the series with that one because it feels like out of the 3 options, that was the one that sounds the most promising to me. So that's kind of what I'm feeling so far. I could definitely see this vlog turning into a few 3 stars, so we'll see how this continues. Again, there's not a whole lot here, which is good and bad because I feel like there's not going to be a whole lot of character development, but I do like Katie Roberts' style of writing. I have enjoyed a couple of books that I've read by her so far, so we'll see what we're getting into. I'll come back when I have more thoughts, but those are my beginning thoughts at least. This is really fun to hold up though. It's very smooth and velvety, which is a really weird thing to say about a cover, but like if you felt this, you would agree. Hello! So I'm here for updates, as I usually am. I actually have a couple of updates for you. I've only finished one book though, and that was The Dragon's Bride by Katie Robert. I finished this one, oh, I don't remember. It's Sunday now, so I feel like I finished it on like Friday, if that's right. So it's been a couple of days, but I ended up giving this one 3.5 stars as well. And I've been thinking, and I think I'm gonna bump Barbarian, the Ice Planet Barbarians, down to 3 stars and keep this one at 3.5 because this still wasn't like the most amazing book I've ever read, but it was like 10 times better, in my opinion, than Ice Planet Barbarians. I think, in my opinion, there's a bunch of trigger warnings in this book. Katie Roberts really, really good about telling you what they are. So if you're interested in any of her books, if you check out her website, they have a comprehensive list there. In this book specifically, there is a list at the very beginning of the book that tells you like the tropes that you have in this book, trigger warnings, tags, things like that within this book. So the 2 that are biggest, in my opinion, as far as like things to actually be on the lookout for is that our main character Briar has come from a very abusive relationship. So trigger warnings for like domestic abuse, and again, not on the page, it's all historical, it's happened in the past, but there is a lot of trauma within Briar as far as like who she can trust, how she can trust different people. So there is a lot of repercussions of that. So it is talked about a lot, but you don't ever see anything like physically. And then I would say light blood magic as well. So like pinpricks, little small things like that. I didn't freak out and I have like super squeamish, so you're probably fine, but just be wary of those 2 things. But I did end up giving this one 3.5 stars. The issue with the book like this is that it's super short, and I like that it's super short because it means I get through it really, really quickly, and like I feel like there's not a whole lot of plot that you can add to a book like this, but at the same time, there's not as much character development in a very short book like this. But the character development was miles better than the first book that I read in this vlog. Because the book is so small and the time limit, like the timeline between our 2 main characters is really only about a month or 2 at most, probably closer to a month. The character development and the relationship development is very rushed, and so there's a lot of like it's not insta love because that's not what it is, but it feels very fast like insta love, so you kind of have to buy in really, really early to this relationship. So yeah, I think my biggest thing is that the story is so fast that there is a lot left to be desired, but I'm not sure what you would add to a story like this in order to make it more realistic. But I still really enjoyed it. I'm still very interested in the rest of the series because I think I mentioned last time I told you is that this is the first in a series of 4, and at the very beginning when Briar is kind of in that like auction situation, there are 4 girls total including her, and so each book in the series is a different girl, and so I'm very interested in the other relationships. Everything in this book is consensual, so there isn't anything particularly bizarre about it. The girls go into this contract knowing that they're going to be auctioned like that. They know what they're getting into. They know it's 7 years. They know that they're going to be taken care of. Nothing is not consensual, and if they ever get hurt, whether physically or emotionally, there is a clause within the contract that they can get pulled out of that situation ASAP. So there's a lot of for the creatures that are getting into these situations, there's a lot for them to not be gross. But at the same time, our demon character, I think all of our demon characters, because there's a few in here, are all non-binary. I'm not 100% sure on that, but all of them are referred to with they pronouns, which makes me think that they might be non-binary, or it's just otherworldly and so they don't have a gender attached to them. I'm not entirely sure about that, but the way that they were talked about as far as being referred to made me question a couple of things. So that might be a little bit of rep within here. Katie Roberts really good about having lots of different types of rep in her books, so it wouldn't surprise me if that was something that she decided to do. But our main character, Briar, is so strong-willed. I love her. Honestly, she's a great main character to follow because she's in an impossible situation, but she's come from a terrible, terrible situation. And so to see her kind of take control and be her own person and really finally understand what it is to be taken care of and all aspects of that, and really just be her own person. And even though she has been literally bullied and put down for her entire relationship with her husband, she still has this very strong will of standing up for herself. And it's so incredible to see, because I feel in a situation that she was in, that wouldn't be the case a lot of the time. You would literally fall apart. And to have her still have such a strong character and stand up for herself was really, really fun to see. So very interested in the rest of the series. Definitely will still keep reading them because I love Katie Roberts. And again, I am interested in the rest of the kind of the idea and following these different parts of this world. But not my favorite thing by her. It was just kind of okay. I was kind of pushing through it when we got to the end, but it still worked and I still enjoyed it. So like I said, I finished that one on Friday, and so over the weekend I have started Choosing Theo, which is the last book for this vlog, and as of right now I am a little over halfway through this book and I am obsessed with it. So I will come back with final thoughts, but right now I love our main characters. I love everything about this book. I don't know why it's so addictive, but there's something that's just so addictive about this world that the very first chapter I was not feeling it. It was okay. There wasn't anything spectacular about it, but I feel that's very common when you're going into a new book. But with this one, I just became enthralled with it. So this follows our main character, Jade. And like the rest of the books, she's been abducted by aliens. And nothing gross has happened. She literally just got knocked out and then has been kept in a cell. We don't know what's going on. We don't really know why she was abducted. At least right now. We might find that out later in this book. I'm not sure. But right now we don't really know why she was abducted. And she is basically deposited on this planet and is trying to figure out what the heck is going on. And so she's trying to find, at first she's trying to find just someone to help her out. And so she finds this group, and I never can tell you what they're called because I always say it wrong, but it's the title of the series is Clandestine. I don't know what it is. I'll come back to you with a better description of it. But basically it's this group of people, and she finds out all about other planets, and she comes from a class 4 world, is what they call it. And so basically that means that they are on their own. They are very primitive and they're everything, and so they aren't, you're not supposed to tell them that there are other worlds out there. But the planet that she drops on, I think is the class 2 or 3, I can't remember exactly, but it's up there and they can know and that kind of stuff. And so basically what happens is she gets stuck on this planet, and because she was taken from a class 4, they're not allowed to go back to a class 4 planet because that planet can't know that there are other people out there. They basically haven't come to terms, they're not mature enough as a planet to know that there are other planets out there and other groups of people in solar systems and stuff like that. So they're not allowed to take her back. But what they do is they say, you can stay here on our planet for a year, and then after a year, once you kind of come to terms with the fact that there are other worlds out there, we'll teach you about our planet, we'll teach you about the solar system, that kind of stuff, then you can go back. You can't go back to Earth, unfortunately, because of that whole, it's illegal to do that. But you can go to a different planet if that's what you choose. But in order to be on this planet, you do have to choose a husband. And there's a weird system on this planet as far as like what that means. So females of the species are very, very minimal. And so reproducing is really tough because there's so few of them. And then when they actually have kids, most of the time, I think he said 80% of the time, they're going to be males. And so there's an overpopulation of males. So females are treated very, very well on this planet. They are thought of to be like the saviors and thought of to be like, really, like you want to take care of them because like if they stay with you, then you have a better chance of like reproducing and like helping out your community. And so what happens is there's these things called like, I don't remember what it's called, but there's like this process of the marriage process. And so basically all of the eligible single men come and parade themselves in front of the women who are choosing that day. And you kind of narrow it down and then pick one and you are with them for 3 months. And then if you decide to extend it because you really like them and the chemistry is there, then great, you can do that. But you are only, if you feel like after 3 months it's not going to fit for you, then like you can peace out and say, I've tried it, we're good. So our main character Jade has to do this. And so she is kind of picking and choosing, and the one that she goes with is this guy named Theo. Well, everyone doesn't, like, is very confused by this because Theo has scars all over his body, which to us look like tattoos. And so imperfections on the skin is something that is like, is very unusual. And so all of these aliens have these like, markings on their skin, but they're very like faded, opaque, things like that. But something happened to him when he was in his childhood and therefore turned all of these markings into black burn marks. And so he just looks like he's been tattooed is the best way I can explain it. And she's fine with that because she's on Earth. Like she even has a tattoo herself. Like that's very normal for her to be like interested in someone with tattoos. And so the fact that like she likes him and picks him, he's very confused by, because why would anyone pick him? Because he is so ugly in his opinion. And so he is convinced that she's a spy because he works with the government, like their government, and he's convinced that she's a spy and like she's going to something's gonna happen, and she's trying to find information on him. And so he's trying to do everything to like bring out the spy on her. So it's their relationship, and they're just super cute. They have a lot of really cute moments so far as like deep conversations about what happened to him, what happened to her, and starting to maybe believe that she may or may not be a spy. And so I am so excited about this book. I'm literally going to stop this recording and go back and continue reading because I am obsessed with this book. And I can't exactly tell you why. Like there's nothing specific about this that works, but there's just a lot of relationships and like the chemistry between them is really, really good. It's the best fleshed out and the most fleshed out of everything that I've read so far in this vlog, and it just feels like a good normal romance in my opinion. It might help that like these aliens, quote unquote aliens, are humanoid in like figure. Like the only difference, I mean there's a few like biological things, they go into like the biology behind it and it's fascinating, but there's a couple of biological things that are different. But as far as like physical appearances, they're just generally like bigger people. So like their average female, which is supposed to be like the shorter of the genders, is about 6 foot, and that's like short for them. And so they still are very normal for us, but they are just like a little bit bigger in general. But besides that, like they would look like a human to her. And so I find that really interesting, and maybe that's why they look so human and they act so human, that there's something there that like connects with me, but it's really just their relationship, and I love them so much. So there is a series, like this is the first in the series. I think it's like 6 books long, and as of right now I would very much continue. So I'm expecting a 4 or a 5 out of this book. I'm not sure yet, we'll see when I get to the end, but seriously, like I am in love with them, and just the two of them coming to terms with each other and like learning to live with each other, and like learning like all the things that females on his planet would not put up with and would not like, she's totally fine with. And so like the two of them mesh really well, and there's just so much tension, and I love everything about this book. So I'm gonna go continue to read this because I'm very invested in them. But that's my update. I have finished Dragon's Bride and I've started choosing Theo. This is the best one in my opinion so far. So I will let you know when I finish it and what my final thoughts are, but it's gonna be very positive, I can just tell now. Hello. I feel like sitting here today while I do my very final update of the vlog. So last night I finished Choosing Theo, which, surprise, surprise, I gave it 5 stars. I loved this book. I don't even know how to even start talking about it. I mean, obviously all of my feelings are the same. The world is fascinating, and the rest of the series follows, there's 5 out now total, and there's 1 more coming out at the beginning of November. And Theo has four brothers and 1 sister, and so 4 of the books follow his brothers, and then 1 other person, which now that I've said it out loud, I'm wondering if that's going to be like the sisters' relationship, even though it's like following the guy. I don't know, but like I'm very invested in this world and I think it's fantastic. So yes, 5 stars. This series is so addictive, or at least this book is so addictive, and I can't pinpoint a specific thing that I loved about it that like made it so good, but I'm honestly surprised not more people are talking about this, because like it is miles better in my opinion than I Plan of Barbarians. So I'm wondering if it's like they were blue and there's some anatomy things that are different, so like it makes them like different, whereas this one is very like, the aliens are very humanoid, but regardless of that fact, it was just so good. I mean, I don't even know what else to say at this point, because I feel like I've said a lot of my feelings already, but I loved our main character. She was so feisty and stood up for herself, and there's a lot of conversation about cultures and being introduced to new cultures and things that, like, for her, for humans, like, there's certain things that she's like, well, that's stupid, why would you do that? And then she has to kind of remind herself that the culture is very different. And there's a couple of things of it. It's rough. Like, once you learn more about the woman's side of things, because she does have conversations with Theo's sister, and there's more conversations about like the women's perspective of things. It's real rough. There's a couple of things that are real sad to like think about, but it's just very fascinating about this society and how they are so desperate to continue that they make all these ridiculous rules for both women and men in order to maybe do that. And so like, it's just, there's a couple of things that I would never thought of. It's just a very interesting look on society, and there's definitely a couple of things in the society that I'm like, that would be great, because they don't have to pay for food or healthcare at all. And I'm like, what is that like? But it was really good. Like I said, I love the chemistry between the 2 of them. They bump heads a lot, and I highlight that in a romance. I wouldn't say it's hate to love, because they don't outright hate each other, but there is definitely some animosity at the beginning that turns, you know, more pleasant later on. And there's just a couple of like teeny tiny plot things that I don't want to say anything in case they spoil it, but like little teeny tiny things that I love in books. And there's something specifically in this book that was in the Plan of Barbarians book. Was it that? No, it was the Dragon's Bride. There's one thing in here that was in the Dragon's Bride. And the vast difference between these 2 books, even though they use the same plot thing, is fascinating. And I just loved seeing our 2 main characters kind of come to terms with themselves, because like Theo is so focused on the fact that like he is the opposite of what anybody would ever want. He doesn't ever expect to get married or have someone in his life. And the fact that she is there, and she is very much like, I'm very different because I'm human, so all the things that you like to do, I'm okay with that. You be your true self around me, and I am 100% on board with that. Whereas he never expected, because females from his society don't do certain things, and so there's little things that like he didn't expect. And so just like their relationship is they're so perfect for each other. They just kind of fit, and it's because they let each other have those aspects and just kind of be themselves. And I loved that so much. There's definitely some rough stuff at the end, just like the big climactic plot thing. So be wary of that. There's not like anything specifically that is outright a trigger warning, but there's definitely some stuff that's like be wary. There's a couple of things that come up, and so I feel like that's going to be talked about a lot more, specifically the second book. I looked into what the second book's about, and it just kind of is a continuation from the first one as far as like the big world things that are going on. So I'd be interested to see, because I feel like we're going to see some more things in the second book than we did in this one. But I'm so interested in the rest of the series. I love her writing. I think she's a great world builder. The fact that she can create this culture and like I can retain everything, and I am so down with everything going on. So those are my thoughts on Choosing Theo. I'm a little scrambled right now, but it got 5 stars. So what did we learn from this experience? We learned that some things are not for me and some things are. I will continue, like I said, with Katie Roberts' series because I'm interested in the rest of that series. Will I try monster romances in the future? Maybe. I'd have to be very, very interested in it. So alien romances 9 times out of 10 have worked because, like, well, out of the 3 I've read, 2 worked for me, but Choosing Theo was definitely the best one for sure. So I'm thinking I might like alien romances just a little bit if it's the right thing. And I haven't decided if I like monster romance or not. I think I like the idea of it rather than the actual application of it, but I think I would need another book beyond Katie Roberts and stuff like that. So, yeah, I don't really know what the conclusion to this vlog is thought-wise, but I am happy that I did this because I definitely read some things that I wouldn't have read for a very long time if I hadn't done this, and I think it's definitely an interesting experiment. These are very easy things to pick up, so it has definitely got my reading mojo back up and going, which is nice. And ending with Choosing Theo was the perfect choice because that one was definitely by far the best, and I'm really enjoying it. And if I had started with that one, this would have been a rough vlog to start with such a good book and end with like some not so great ones. So yeah, I hope you enjoyed my monster romance vlog. If you like monster romances and alien romances and things like that, and you have some suggestions, as always, feel free to leave those down below. Or if you've read any of the 3 books that I mentioned in today's vlog, please let me know your thoughts on those. Are you a fan of the Ice Planet Barbarians? If so, if that is the case, if you are a fan of that series, let me know what you liked about it, because I'm definitely missing something and it just didn't click with me, but I would love to know why other people liked it. So if that's the case, let me know. But if not, then just leave all of your bookish thoughts down below. And if you want to comment something but you're not sure what to comment, feel free to comment any form of monster emoji. There's quite a few down there. So pick and choose which is the best one that you like. But if you like this video, and I very much hope that you did, don't forget to give it a big thumbs up and subscribe down below if you'd like to be part of this awesome growing family. I've also got all my social media down there as well as other fun bookish links, so don't forget to check all that out, and I will see you guys in my next video. Bye!